opportunity, oh God, to gather in this space, in this place, in this way. We ask, oh Lord, you will continue to strengthen us on tonight, but most of all, oh God, open our hearts and our minds and our eyes that we might be receptive to what you reveal on tonight. We love you, Lord, and it's in your name we pray. Amen. Amen. Um, Everybody's doing well? No, right? That game was something else last night. I without thinking the game. Well, I'll be honest with you. I only, believe it or not, saw the fourth quarter, but then I watched the replay late last night, and I saw the fourth quarter because I was at the New York premiere for Spielberg's new movie, Disclosure Day. That's amazing, huh? No, it was at Lincoln Center last night. It's a great. I gotta go see it again. It was really, huh? Good. Yeah. Good. I can say I gotta see it again. It was about 2 hours and 2 hours 25 minutes, but it's really good. It's deep, but it's not one of those. Well, it has its moments. Actually, it does actually, but it's a really good movie. But so when I watched the fourth quarter and then watched the replay, well, a few things on the Knicks part. One, they played very sluggish last night. They looked tired actually. And what happens with the Knicks when they go back, when they get tired like that, they revert back to that ISO ball with Jalen, which I can't stand. And watching him. But um, then when you watch the whole game, because I'm not one of the things you could watch the game, you focus on where the camera got you. But when you watch the entirety of the game, there was so many fouls. The officiating was horrific. Like if you trying to stop a sweep, right, or you trying to help Spurs, you gotta be a little bit not so obvious as referees. The officiating has been bad for 3 games, but last night was excessive. That was like, and I told somebody, I said, look, them refs better have security after the game. Come right here in New York with that because folk was tight. I was upset. It was ridiculous. But the Knicks did not play well. The truth is they haven't played good 3 games. And if you're honest, and last night they didn't play well and still could have won it. I mean, they could have won it. They lost by 4. So it was interesting. It's just strange. But my attitude is like I was telling Minister King earlier. It's like, what the trainers tell the boxers, don't leave it in the judge's hands. Knock them out. So you got to make it so that no matter what the rest, you just got to beat them. You got to play well. They haven't played well. So they got to play well and execute. And if they do that, if they do that, the Spurs cannot really hang with them. But if they keep playing like they playing, well, I don't anticipate that again. I don't think that's going to be, there's a lot of distractions and all that. But they did their thing. But here's my philosophy. If you're gonna dish it, they better be ready to take it. Because I will come in there with elbows swinging, hitting everybody. Because if they're gonna let that fly, you gotta force their hand. We gonna force the officials to call it because we gonna hit these dudes. Because I like what Marbury said. He said, "Man, I be throwing bows like knives on that dude. Like it's crazy, man." But we'll see. The league, the league don't. What chair is this? It's the wrong chair, bro. There's 2 of these. There's a high one, and they got the show. I'm like, why I'm sitting here like on the table? You ever been a kid trying? He said, "Well, man, yeah, it's the taller one." I was like, "Wait a minute, I ain't tall, but guys," I was like, "Here, like, he's a kid trying to eat at the table." I felt like that. Those who were here, did you enjoy the documentary? Outstanding, right? Yeah. I f- I mean, I figured the timing because when we started Souls of Black Folk, um, they announced that documentary. It came out on the 19th of May. revival. So I was like, and then it moved from PBS, put it on YouTube. So that's how we were able to watch it. They moved to the YouTube quick. So, but I knew that if you watch that, it would make this book come alive, and it would really help you understand the larger narrative and understand the boys more and understand even Booker T. But then to understand, Du Bois's personal narrative and also his passion for his people. But it's a great. I watched it twice actually, and it's really it was really well done. So I'm glad you all were able to. Those who were able to watch it. It's worth that. And I think even for those who haven't watched it, you can go on YouTube and watch it because I think it's really a good companion if you've been looking at the book and reading the book about it. Um, and I just think it was well done. So I'm gonna take a different approach tonight. We're gonna dive into it tonight. I'm tired. I've been trying to rest June. I've been slowing my schedule down a little bit and resting. But let me tell you, I made a critical miscalculation today that has me tired right now. Right now, I had missed my granddaughter. I've been out of town, so she comes over after school. That's a bad move. And she wore me out. I'm running around the house playing game. I played Candyland about 12 times. Perfection, we playing, and you swing me, pop, pop. I'm like, Lord have mercy. And by the time she left, I went and lay in the bed, and I was like, I gotta go to the church. I was like, this wasn't a smart move, Mike. This wasn't the best thing I could have done. But I was glad to spend time with her, so I can't be too mad. But man, I'm up here sleepy. That's what happened, man. You try. Hold on, wait a minute. I'm not even gonna say it's gonna be short, because I say every time I say that, it end up being more long. That's it. Where was it at? Oh Lord. Let's see. Cause I know when I sat down, I was like, wait a minute. I don't mind it, but I didn't like the tables hit me in my shoulder. This looks more like my seat. Yeah, man, you ain't no young guy. What you doing? Yeah, on this one, these young guys come. Oh, yeah, here we go. There we go. I feel better. Now I feel better. Uh-oh. That's a bad term for. All right, so let's hand these out. Let's get started. And get some folks to come on and hand these out. Let me, Mary. This side, gracias. Now, here's the thing I realized. In my, I don't want to be delusional and assume that everybody's been reading all this book. I know how we be doing. And it's been nice outside. So what I've been trying to do is give some extensive notes so that you can keep, and hopefully you're keeping these notes because we can put some effort in these notes. So I'm going to go through these notes and we'll shape some conversation. Now let me turn this phone on. Just when you think you feeling good about yourself and feel you in good shape, you got an afternoon like I had. And then you realize you ain't in as good a shape as you thought you were. Because my goodness. All right. So, you need some more? So the notes are for 6, 7, and 8. We have a few more weeks of Souls of Black Folk, and then we take our little summer break. For those who don't know, July and August is our Sabbath months here at FCBC. We try to, where we staff, we reduce our meetings, events, engagements, just to give everybody on the team, especially the staff, a rest. It's also summers when we do our hybrid services. If you haven't been here in the summer before, um, where we're in July and August, first, third, and I think there's a fifth in August. First, third, and fifth are in person. The second and fourth Sundays are virtual. So second and fourth Sunday, you'll hear more. I've already talked about on Sunday, but you'll see more. We'll talk about more on the Live at 5, and you'll see it online. But first and third in person, second and fourth virtual. We've been doing that now, I think, since the pandemic, and we just kept it, and folks seem to like it. I know I do, but folks seem to like it, and it gives a chance for those volunteers who work on Sundays a little break as well. Yes, ma'am. What do you mean? Hmm. I don't know why. You know what it is? No, no, but hold on. No, hold on before you finish. What? Let me qualify that. I want to, because I've been hearing this. So but hold on. But let me respond to this. Let me respond to this. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about what she said. No, listen. So I'm gonna tell you what she said. But so let me tell you, that's not necessarily so. The only party we've had on my birthday where I didn't dance was after 2012 when I was recovering and I had my cane. Also, now I want you to. So I'm gonna push you. I have danced at every birthday party. Hold on, or any party. Yeah, I. No, I don't. My birthday party. Let me. That's what I'm bring clarity. Every birthday party we've had, I dance. I don't. I haven't always danced at the galas or something like that. But every or anniversary, but every birthday party, I do dance. Now, true to your point, that that party I was dancing a lot. But I was feeling good that night. We had a good time. I I was, but I was getting it in. You just said it. No, I was getting it in. And I ain't just talking about dancing either. No, we had a good time. We had a good time. It was fun. You saw the video? Yeah, somebody started sending me videos. I was like, good Lord. I was like, wait a minute. This- I got a bunch of videos people sent to me. Everybody was recording that night. People sending me videos. I was like, oh Lord. That's how I was. Like the next day, I was like, okay. I was like, oh, whoa. Now we had a good time though. I will say this too. Let me just be. Here's the other thing. I'm gonna be very honest. I love music. I love parties. But I will say, to the team's credit, that was the best DJ we've had at a party. It was nonstop. Yeah, that was, you had no choice. There was never a moment where you was like, oh, there was never a moment when there was no one on the dance floor. All night long, the dance floor was full. Like they never, then he had Will Tracks. He on the night, he MC, shine a light on him. So I mean, you shine a light on me, I gotta, I had to do my thing. So I mean, I ain't gonna have it. You talking about shine a light on him? I'm walking off the floor. So and everybody was having a good. It was, and it was deep because Dawn said some people was giving her a hard time because we was on the boat and we didn't have the boat by ourselves. And I was like, man, bump people. I don't care about them. I was like, you do shit. But first of all, you didn't even know nobody else was on the boat. You couldn't hear nothing. I really did not know there were people above. I knew they were there, but you didn't see them. You couldn't hear them. And we had our own access to the top. So it was like we had it by ourselves. I mean, literally, you did not hear. And it was deep. They were above us. And those are kids. And I was like, oh, Lord, these teenagers. We heard nothing. Maybe they probably heard us because we was definitely getting it in. Because we were like, yeah, it was a party. And it was, I will say, it was probably one of the best parties we've had. It was great. And the food was good. Sometimes you go on these boat rides, the food don't really be that good. The food was good. And yeah. I had this jacket on, Mary. This orange suede jacket. Man, and it got messed up. It's getting fixed, clean now. It's at the place. What happened is at the end, when I took pictures next to the cake, I didn't realize my arm was that close to the cake. So when I pulled away, all that icing was on my jacket. I was like, oh. Pfft. So I went right to I was looking at what's the best suede cleaning place now. I was like, but it was good. So no, I had a good time. It was good. Thank you. We had a good time. But the energy was good. I think everybody was just enjoying themselves. The food was good. It wasn't no foolishness. And the only thing I was mad about was that when it was over, I was like, oh, pfft. We could, huh? Yeah, we could win around one more time. Right? Let me get one more hour in here. So we got to know next time we got to go a little later because by the time, like, literally when we pulled up, I was like, oh, because it was really that good. So anyway, but thank all y'all who came because we had a ball that night. And, so yeah, I don't know. We might do some September too. Only because I can't say that because they kill me for saying that because I'm like, we're going to do something. They're like, no, we not. That's what's right. That's something we should have planned ahead of time. We're going to do that because that's my, which is big for me. Both these milestones are big. But September is my 30 years I've been a pastor. So that's amazing. Like 30 years I've been doing this. I can't believe it, man. 30 years. Huh? We're going to have an impromptu party. Like, meet me at the fellowship hall. So let me say this now before we go any further. There is no watch party tomorrow. Because you know how people going to come in here tomorrow. Somebody going to walk in tomorrow. That's why I had to say Sunday. We got to win Monday. We come because that would have been the closeout party. So no watch party tomorrow because I might be outside the garden waiting for the refs to come out. I'm going to bring the goons with me. Like, look, we got to see these dudes, man. You know what I mean? That's crazy. I know somebody done thought it. I told Miss Kane, I said, you're going to have somebody up on the Spurs bus. She's with a security jacket on. I'm telling my son, when they come out, bruh, I don't care how big you are. Who? Oh, I'm sure they were. Ridiculous. Because it's obvious that whether they want the Knicks to lose, the point is they didn't want to sweep because that was bad money. So they didn't want to sweep for sure. And there was no way if Knicks won last night, they wasn't going to win Wednesday. So that's what it was. It was all of that. I mean, because it was too obvious. I mean, it was bad. I was talking to my friend last night or this morning, whose wife is VP for the Thunder, and they watching the game. She was like, yeah, they saw it in OKC, and she was just like, yeah, they clearly want the Spurs to advance because internationally it makes money when he can do it. But yeah. So that's the other thing. You don't want to lose that money with a 4-game sweep. So I was like, man, this is trash. But it was, it was just blatant. So, we're going to see. Who, Trump? Well, he fell asleep for a number of reasons. He falls asleep everywhere, though. Dane knew he falls asleep everywhere. God bless him. He falls asleep when he sleep. That was good. All righty. He said he falls asleep when he sleep. That was a good one. All right. Well, hopefully. Well, first, yeah, people did enjoy the movie last Tuesday, right? It was good. Or the documentary. I'm a documentary fiend. I love good documentaries. And that one is just such a good one. Because it's the first I think it's the first one that PBS has done. And they do really good documentaries. It wasn't a Ken Burns documentary, but it was still really, really good. And I'm glad they tackled the way they humanized the boys as well in some particular ways, help give clarity on some of the work and the rationale behind some of his work. I'm a Du Bois fan, and this book can seem a little dense on some levels, but I'm of the opinion that you never shy away from a challenge, no matter what it is. But that's why I give these kind of more extensive notes than I have for anything else we've done, because I want people to be able to understand what is happening, what is Du Bois. And the thing is, one of the things I love about Du Bois is also one of the things that can make him challenging, which is he's so lyrical in his writing that sometimes he can seem it can be challenging sometimes, but he's very lyrical. I love the lyricism of his writing. I think when I think of writing, I think of you know him. I think of Toni Morrison because of her commitment to to our language in her books and not trying to change language, but the idioms of different spaces and places. Of course, James Baldwin. And I'm like him off. I like the lyricism of Du Bois. I love the linguistic commitment of Toni Morrison. I love the extended sentences of James Baldwin. And then I love actually Ernest Hemingway because Hemingway breaks all the rules of writing. He changed writing in America, but I would say globally at the time. His use of the word and his short sentences and his extended sentences by doing what in writing you're not supposed to use and he does it. So he breaks the rules because prior to Hemingway, books were thick and complicated. Books like Ulysses and all these things. Like it was a very thick books and very complicated. But Hemingway comes with some very clear-cut language, short to the point sentences, except when he uses the word and. But I like that. But all those writers to me, but it's Du Bois's lyricism I love the most. Whenever I read this book, I sit there and I read the forethought over and over because he sets the conditions of this book in a forethought in a very short way, but very profound way when he introduces the veil and all the concepts in the book. So, all right, well, chapter 6 is of the training of black men, which is really, of course, of that time, the patriarchy, everything is in masculine language, but at the end of the day, Du Bois is talking about the training and the education of black people in general, and that is kind of his focal point. So, for what he understands, if you understand the debate we talked about last time, we were in person before the revival, that idea with him and Booker T. Washington, this kind of the classical education versus this vocational education. I might add, interestingly enough, that vocational training probably has a better longevity now than going to college and getting a 4-year degree, especially if you get a degree in disciplines that there's no jobs for, versus vocational training. Um, you know, I don't know how much I'm gonna call somebody with a degree in art history, but I know I'm gonna call somebody who knows how to do some HVAC. So it's just about how you approach it. There was a time when I was coming up. Yeah, I remember BOCES. Yeah, I remember that back in the days. A different kind. Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with you. I think people are assuming that, but there's an attitude I think people should have. You either say AI is going to replace them, or you then say, let me master AI so I'm irreplaceable. It's the approach you got to have. Because there's no such thing as it's not going to be what it is. It's here, it's going to be used, and we use it. Most people don't use it in the way it can be used to its extent. But the idea is something like, so here at the staff, we begin this summer doing certain trainings in AI to make the workload a little bit easier, especially for some of the support team. But yeah, people are fearful of losing jobs. And there are some jobs, I remember reading an article last year, there are some jobs that just will not be relevant. Like, if you try and be a travel agent, you might as well throw that out. I'm just telling you, if there's any travel agents here, you probably already know, but if you try to be a travel agent, you might as well find something else to do. because there's no need for a travel agent. Not when you got AI or chat and everything you could have used a travel agent for before, Chat GPT will do. You could be like, listen, I'm trying to fly so and so. Give me alerts when the new cheapest prices pop up. Boom, boom. I'm going so and so. Here's the itinerary I want. Here the amount of restaurants I go to. This kind of hotel I go to. Boom, seconds has popped out. So if you're trying to be in the travel industry, this is the wrong time to do that. That's fading. That's going to be irrelevant. The only time it may be helpful is if you're doing something like what we did, which is these large group trips, which we ain't going to see them large group trips no more. For us, we maxing out at 80, 85 on this one. I think we might be at 85. So that's that. But I think that's it. I think again, Du Bois's argument at that time was because the assumption was that black folk did not have the aptitude for to be classically trained in the humanities. So what did a black person need to know about philosophy and psychology and sociology? That was the thinking. And so for him, the idea of vocational training wasn't that it was irrelevant. He felt that Booker T. Washington was acquiescing to operating in permissible spaces that white supremacy had allowed for black folk. And I think that was his biggest beef. But what I also realized in that is that we have to always be careful of how we kind of bifurcate so many things. And when I mean that, I mean, why was it then either or, right? It can be both. There shouldn't have been a Booker or you on Booker T versus Du Bois. I think it's both. But the larger narratives, large society always tries to divide that. You know, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can pursue vocational training and deeper intellectual rigor at the same time. That's nothing that we cannot do. So for Du Bois, you see there on the notes, the great debate over black education is, and this is this chapter kind of goes back to earlier chapter, that he's again concerned with the type of education that black folk he believes needs. He rejects the notion that vocational training alone is sufficient. So it's not sufficient. Now, let me be clear. What was being done at Tuskegee was powerful, especially if you think about what was being produced in Tuskegee. And I think I alluded to this before when you think of like George Washington Carver, who was brilliant, genius. So you have this man with all his genius at Tuskegee, and he's really showing. I mean, when I was in LA, I think last year, they had an exhibit at LACMA on George Washington Carver, and we haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg when you think about his contribution to this country. I mean, George Washington Carver really, let's take the car industry, for example. Like, a lot of his research and work was sponsored by Henry Ford because he helped shape he used soybeans to make the furniture in those cars. The tires, he created the mechanism for building the tires. I mean, he did all of these things. And so he had a lot of benefactors who were a lot of wealthy whites who were his benefactors. But the things he created, not just with peanut, but the soybean, he would take this wagon around in Deep South, showing them how to work the ground. Because, you know, oftentimes black folks would get land. If they own land, it'd be land nobody wanted. And he would travel in the South, especially Alabama, and showing them how to cultivate the land that nobody wanted to make it productive. Like, this was important for us. We knew. And I think for Booker T. Washington, if we are the ones whose hands and labor built the land of this country, then we can't abandon that. Right? And so I get that part. And so yes, ma'am. Hold on, let's get this mic for a second. You want a handout? Oh, there you go. Huh? You said? George Washington Carver was all sorts of things. He crocheted, he painted. Like, if you go there with that exhibit, it's traveling. I mean, the amount of things he did, poetry, he wrote, I mean, genius genius in a way that we like in this we like to talk about like Tesla, right? I'm not talking about the car, I'm talking about the man. And who is Tesla was brilliant. I mean, surpassed Edison and all that. But we don't talk about the African Americans who are of that genius, like George Washington Carver, right? So the Boyce's thing was that if you reduce black folk to only just working and not thinking, and that's what he had a problem with, right? We can engage in hard, rigorous intellectual engagement. He was proof of that. They made that man get a whole nother bachelor's degree before he came to Harvard because they discounted, you saw that, his fist. So think about the kind of vigilance it took, to go to school, to then try to go to Harvard. They said, no, we don't accept that degree from no black school. Do another degree and then even you see trying to do the studies over in Europe and then the money, like he was committed, man. That took a different kind of commitment in and of itself. But now you also understand why for him education is so paramount. There should be no barrier. If he was able to do what he did and not give up, then he wanted that same access and experience as well. So I think that is one of the things I admire. When you look at that part when he talks about the beyond breadwinning, so for him, this idea that for us is so how do you put it? It's not just about, even now, it's not just about working, making money, working, paying bills. That's how I'm putting this language. Work. It is deeper than that. It is about how do you expand the depth of your humanity by intellectual engagement? How do you become a deeper and better human being by education? Not just in the fields, which he knew, right? So this is not the language he used, but we talk about the field people in the house, but this idea of field people, the work of the hand, but then the university, the academic space, which at that time is radical because it was a belief that black folk did not have the intellectual capacity to do the things, and a W.E.B. Du Bois was looked upon as an anomaly. And the other thing I liked about him, unlike so many of, and I say this in critique, many of our great African-American scholars now, I don't know, how do I say that? Some of our great African-American scholars now don't have that same commitment to this degree. Now, although doors were closed for Du Bois was committed to working with his people and teaching his people. And so often, some of the best that we have intellectually in our communities, a lot of the predominantly white institutions snatch them up. And if truth be told, they want to be there. They want to be validated by those particular institutions, right? And somehow when you get jobs at these Ivy League schools, or at least top 20 schools, and it's a worthy pursuit because you want to be validated as an educator, as a scholar. But a lot of some of our great talent gets lost. Now, the classic thing you'll hear from many scholars is, you go to HBCU, you got to teach like 4 classes and 5 classes a semester, and then you don't get the kind of financial support for research and for doing books. And I get all that, and I thank God for the professors I had who found that commitment. But it's a different point of view, whereas when I was at a Duke, the professor's focus is tenure, scholarship, books. And what you realize in many of these schools is that you have some very smart people who can't teach. Because teaching is, because you have a doctorate doesn't mean you're a teacher. It means you know how to do the work to get the doctorate. But I've been in some of these schools, and there were some bad teachers who just weren't good teachers, smart people, and weren't good teachers. Whereas when I was an undergrad, these people didn't get all the fame and acclaim of some scholars, but they were amazing teachers. And they invested and poured in to so many of us. And so I think for Du Bois, he was of that ilk. They told a story in the documentary, but not the full one, when they had the Atlanta riots and he gets back and he goes and gets the guns and because he's not going to see his family harmed. But it's that story of him and John Hope standing at the gates of Atlanta University with guns. Like, nah, the Klan tried to come on this campus. We might not get them all, but some going to catch some bullets out here. But just think about that. Think about the times. And when you look at that documentary, think about the times, the insanity of those times. Here you are traveling through the South like Du Bois was, and lynchings are happening all the time. This is a different kind of reality that many of our people don't understand history. Remember our young people, because the peril you faced just traveling. Once you pass that Mason-Dixon line, and even up here still, like just traveling as a black person was dangerous, right? Because your life truly was not valued and completely disregarded. So it was a radical thing to do what Du Bois was doing and so many others, especially when people knew what he was doing and frowned upon him, when white people frowned upon a black man like that. And for him, as I put there, human beings in his mind needed more than just the ability to produce or be breadwinners or make money. They needed knowledge and character and culture and moral vision. And he believed that education could truly do that. Du Bois asked whether education should merely produce workers or cultivate the whole person, a well-rounded person, right? And so that's what I believe. I mean, I'm convinced that if Du Bois was alive today, he'd be, probably crying at how little education is valued and how much of the knowledge of our community, our history, so many of our young people just don't know, and how much we've lost. Because that's the real issue. How much we've lost so long to gain these things. And so quickly we've lost those things. And there are so many days where I feel a tremendous amount of shame. I'm not gonna lie. That, this happened when I was speaking at NAACP, Gail, a few weeks ago. They probably won't invite me back. Well, maybe they will actually, but I said, while we sit here celebrating all these things that happened under our watch. This happened on our watch. So don't get too caught up in your self-congratulatory gatherings when the things that this institution fought for have vanquished right in front of us. How we celebrate. What is it to celebrate? There's work to do, actually. So part C, when you go there in that chapter 6, the legacy of black educational achievement, he celebrates remarkable progress made after emancipation. Because that's worth noting. He mentions this in a chapter when he talks about the building of these HBCUs and these black schools, these black college universities to educate black folk. Now, the deep thing, though, about that, most HBCUs were not started by black people. As many people don't realize, I always know that. Most HBCUs are started by white missionaries, religious missionaries. When I was at Morehouse College, there was a man we called Mukasa. He was like our local activist. He was an older brother, would always be on campus. He was older, gray hair, beard, wearing dashikis every day. And they let him come on campus because he was not a professor or anything, and nobody bothered, the security never bothered him. Listen, if you didn't have a ticket or a pass to get in the cafeteria, you couldn't get in. This dude was in the cafeteria all the time, sitting and talking and like building and educating us. He'd go on the hallways and dorms. And you knew he was there because you hear him. He'd be like, "Uhuru." Every time he got like, "Uhuru." And we was like, "What's up, African?" And that's every time he saw you. And I remember one time he was yelling in the middle of campus. He said, Morehouse needs to change the name. Morehouse is a white man. He was like, this should be Martin Luther King College or Malcolm X College. And he's right, Henry Lyman Morehouse was a white man. Somebody said, what? I thought Morehouse named after a black man. What? But y'all, let me hit y'all. I know I got some folk in here. I ain't gonna mess up y'all vacation this summer. Because I've been there. Like Martha's Vineyard, I know we got a lot full of it. That's white, that's named after Martha Washington. Nope. No. It's a white man's daughter named, and his wife, his daughter, the same name, Martha. You find out about the man who they named that after and tell me you still want to go over there. Because you got to do your research. Do your research. But these HBCUs, who knows the HBCU that's founded by black folk? Okay, one. Bethune-Cookman, yes. Give me another one. Grambling. Yeah. Go ahead. What's the first HBCU founded by black people? Before Tuskegee, Virginia Union. Virginia Union. Yeah. So a lot of HBCUs are started by white missionaries. Morehouse, Spelman. Spelman was Laura Spelman Rockefeller. Spelman was her maiden name. So that's where that comes from. So, yeah. But I mean, these these are people who believe in the education of black people, and not just the kind of education that was vocational with your hands. They believe in the education of black people, and they invested in that, and it was risky too. For you talking about fresh after emancipation. So Morehouses started in 1867, for example, right after emancipation. So this is when you get this groundswell of schools between 1865 and 1890. The amount of black schools that are founded, right, to educate black people, because the doors of opportunity were closed, right? So they served a tremendous purpose. One they still serve, even probably now, more so now than in times past, right? So what he celebrates is, in part C, the emancipation. After emancipation, you get schools established, literacy expanded, black teachers trained, black colleges founded. All that time. So you have people who, remember, who are teaching, not the same like now. You had people in those days teaching in colleges who had college degrees. Now you got to have a master's or a doctorate, but in those days, if you were college educated, with so few of us who were college educated, the college educated ones were the ones who were teaching in college, right? Who were trained and educated in college. So the legacy of HBCUs and those institutions are powerful for what they meant to our community and our people, and how they help push us and drive us. It's like people, I'm always going to talk about my school, Morehouse College. People are always astonished when they go to Morehouse College. Like, who went there recently for the first time with me for something? Nobody. When I went, who, you? Oh, yeah, when I went, yeah. Most people are astonished when they go to Morehouse because they assume Morehouse is big. Morehouse is small. Morehouse, we have about 2,000 students. About 20, maybe 2,500 now because of online students. Never been a big school, but a big name and a tremendous reputation. When you think about a school with 2,500 students having that enormous name, Spelman's the same way, same exact way. These are small schools. You can walk around the campus in less than an hour, But again, rooted in a commitment, Clark Atlanta, Morris Brown, all those schools, what they call the AUC. Atlanta University Center. So those schools, even Morris Brown, I give props to Morris Brown because Morris Brown lost accreditation and fought to get it back, and so hats off to the leadership there. I mean, but these schools served a great purpose, was the commitment to educating black people, to purely educate black people. Now, you see this kind of reverse discrimination taking place, but they ain't really messing with a lot of these HBCUs yet. And so Du Bois in that chapter celebrates that, because for a lot of our people, if it wasn't for HBCUs, they wouldn't have been educated. And he knew firsthand, having gone to Fisk, and the power of Fisk, and then teaching at Fisk as well. But that's how it was. That was that commitment to those institutions. I mean, for a lot of us who went through those schools, your dream was to always go back and teach or lead or be president of those schools because of the impact. For me, I tell people that the 4 years of my life I would do over again was my 4 years in college. And not just because of the fun we had, because we did have fun now, but because of the impact. It literally changed my life, turned my life completely around. And I will always be indebted to that place because of what it did. And that's why you also see so many alum whose children end up going to these schools because of the impact they had on the parents. And it wasn't like the parents were forcing their kids. Although I do know some people force their children. Or they make that threat, you can go anywhere you want to go to college. But my money going to Morehouse. So wherever you figure out how you're going to fund your education. I'm sending money to Morehouse. But I didn't do that to my kids. People thought I did, but I was strategic. I waited till my kids always went down there because we were always in Atlanta. When they got a little older, though, Mary, when my son was like in 10th, 11th grade, I took him to homecoming. And that was that. Same thing with Jasmine. She by 11th grade, homecoming. Did her in. Because my daughter applied to one college. Early decision. I was like, Jasmine, you got to have a backup plan. She's like, nope. When she got her admission, she was like, I'm good. One school, that's all she was going. But no, for me saying, you need to go to Spelman, homecoming. Because, man, homecoming did them in. And that's how, if you ever, change everything. But Morehouse is crazy now. I mean, homecoming is crazy. I can't do that now. It's too much. It's too many people. It's like 27,000 people descending in this little 2-3 block area. It's ridiculous. But anyway, I digress. Then in that, of course, he defends Negro. But let me tell you the deep thing. Who he found himself, and even to this day, defending black colleges too, is black people. Because I heard it, just to give you a real sense of reality. Reality is not like this. I heard that when I went to Morehouse. Black colleges don't really prepare students for reality. I was like, that ain't the case. Because by the time I went to Duke, I was like, man, these people ain't that smart. I felt over-prepared, because again, the level of teaching versus a large research university, right? So the level of teaching was more intentional, more intense. And so Du Bois finds himself justifying, especially people who didn't believe in HBCUs. So Du Bois argues that every community needs trained leaders. Black colleges, in his mind, had a responsibility to develop teachers and clergy, everybody who he felt, physicians, intellectuals, community leaders. Leadership cannot emerge without rigorous higher education. And I believe that. And I'm probably a Du Boisian in that sense. I do not believe that people who take seriously charge to lead our people should not take training seriously. Now, when we start saying, well, so-and-so didn't do this and so-and-so didn't have that, okay, that was so-and-so. And it was a different time on some parts when you didn't have access. But again, look who he lists: teachers, clergy, leaders. You got to be trained. I say it all the time. From people, my example for those are the same. You're not going to go to anybody who told me they was called for stuff, and that's satisfactory for you. And it shouldn't be satisfactory for a clergy either. But unfortunately it is. Right? Go ahead. Oh, yeah. Keep some back there, Mary. Just leave them in the back. Yeah. Just leave those in the back. And my thing about that is intent is real, because I don't believe in untrained clergy. And also I believe in trained clergy at accredited institutions, because all institutions ain't accredited. Yeah. Well, a lot of clergy were the most educated people in the community. Many of them went to college at least, but usually they were the most educated ones, because we talk about pre-emancipation or post-emancipation, because they could read. That was a bummer. Most folk ain't reading. So if you could read, you were already somewhere else in the ability. But so there was a period when in our communities where the clergy, the priests were the most educated. And that started changing. And I can't say that now. I can't say that now necessarily. But for me, it's important, because I take it just as serious a vocation as any other vocation. You're not going, I don't care what it is. If you got to get your AC fixed, you might try to get your cousin, but you're going to end up spending more money. Like, you want somebody who know what they're doing, So if everywhere else you want somebody who's trained, then you come to church and be like, oh, I'm good. Well, the level of training is going to determine the level of engagement that you get and the level of output that you get. That's just bottom line. And the problem is that today, a lot of young people who go into ministry don't feel as much the need to go to be trained, because in many divinity schools and seminaries across the country, enrollment is down 31%. 31%. And part of the reason is because social media. What does that mean? Because a lot of the people that we may see on social media as preachers, because we see them on social media, doesn't mean that they actually have education. A lot of them doesn't. A lot of them don't. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. Joel Osteen doesn't have a college degree. Joel Osteen has a high school diploma, dropped out of college. If you listen, though, you can hear it. If you listen, you can hear it. He has no college degree. His father was the pastor. His father died. He dropped out. When he left college, he came back to the church, worked on running the media team. And then he went from running the media team, his father died, being a pastor. So a lot of folks, your man at the potter's house. I love him. I think he's a great preacher. But, you know, again, when you see a lot of people who look successful and you see that they don't have X, Y, Z, you got a lot of young people thinking, well, hey, if they don't need to go to school, why I need to go? Well, that assumes you got some of the same opportunities, because again, you take Osteen. Osteen didn't build that church, his dad did. Now he took it somewhere else. He expanded it, but his dad built that church. So, you don't always have these opportunities that you want, because doing this work ain't easy, because y'all something else. Y'all a piece of work. But again, for me, that's important. Same thing. Mary, I saw you in the hospital. Ain't nobody going to the hospital. Somebody tell me, well, I have a calling to be a neurosurgeon. A what? A calling. They ain't going to work. They ain't going to make you feel comfortable. I feel the Lord is telling me to go operate. You'd be like, man, get out of here. But my biggest example is always a dentist, because you can almost handle somebody who's a physician, but a dentist, man, you don't want nobody up in your mouth playing around with no instruments. You say, hey, look, because it's a very vulnerable place to be sitting there on your back with your mouth open, and you, bruh. Because I don't care when they tell me it's numb, I still be jumping just because of the sound. I don't want to hear this, They be giving you, but see, back in those was a certain age. They still do it now. Back in the days, you go to the dentist for a root canal, they put that little mask over your nose. Got that little laughing gas hit you, and they would put you don't know about that, right, Lanier? Yeah, see, you would get. I had my root canal. They had a little mask over me and some shades they put on you because the light was so bright, and you be high as all get out. 12 years old, high, high. You're sitting there, tore to pieces. You sitting there just. The what? Oh yeah. Oh man, yeah. Mouth. Listen, my mouth feel like it's this heavy, dry. You sitting there like with a not even chapstick. It got fancy. You got like bliss sticks and stuff like that. You had petroleum jelly. You had some Vaseline on your mouth. I don't know how he got here. Huh? Train, that's right. But that's important. I'm going to keep stressing that, man. I had this conversation in L.A. when we did Word and Wine. Same conversation. Because, that's a new church plant. A lot of young people are there. And a lot of things that I'm teaching is so new for them and so mind-blowing for them. And it's like a whole new world is opening up biblically and theologically with things that many of you may have heard, but most folk just don't know. Because what we don't understand is that you can't just pick up a Bible one day and be like, okay, let me just go ahead and interpret this. Let me tell you what it means to me. Well, okay, that's fine, but that ain't gonna help you. And I have one of my biggest pet peeves is people's inability to respect what it takes to do it and also require it. I'm just telling you, if I'm not going to sit in the dentist's office who was not trained, I'm not sitting in the church. I'm just having my standard got to go here. I'm going to be the same. I'm going to hold this to a high standard. And when people give me the whole argument, well, just because they got the spirit, okay, I believe that too. And don't use Jesus' example, because wasn't everybody around Jesus' time speaking the way he was speaking and could understand everything. So somewhere there was some level of understanding. But that ain't the point of comparison. Jesus anyway. So I think in all things, in that sense, Du Bois is right that the idea of intellectual rigor, the challenge, the expansion of the mind, the deepening of one's humanity is important, as well as the vocational things as well. Because right now, the idea of intellectual rigor is out the window. The idea of intellectual engagement is out the window. Reading, forget about it. We ain't doing that no more. Everything is visual. We are becoming a dumber nation. I hate to use that language. But we are because it's like I never thought I'd see the day when you look at an article, a digital article, they got to now tell you how long it is because people's attention spans are so short. You got to tell them again, this is a 4-minute read. This is a 5-minute read because folks don't even want to sit down. And then on top of that, look at you, all of us. If I give you this book to read right here, you start, here's why the books become difficult. Here you go. You read it and say, okay, it would be unjust. You come in here and you feel me? And you be like, let me see. So it's gonna take you're gonna get frustrated reading because it's gonna take you forever off the one page because you didn't check your phone 5 times before you got off the one page. So this is what's happening. So the idea of thinking and being a critical thinker when critical analytical skills are just trash right now, right? Especially with technology. So things you have to be intentional around. Like for me, buying a newspaper is an act of rebellion in my mind, tragically. Like there's something for me about buying the Sunday New York Times. I feel like it's an act of rebellion. Everybody's sitting there on their phones. I want the paper in my hand. I want to fold it. I want to read it. You know what I'm saying? I want to mark up the paper. I want to look at the different sections. I want to read. I could get it on New York Times app, but I want to have the paper in my hand. And when I read it, I put my phone somewhere else on the charger, and I keep my reading over here because if not, your natural inclination. You have to train yourself not to go after that phone. You sleep in the morning, your eyes ain't even open. And what you don't realize in the middle of the night, you know, there's a time when you couldn't see, you wake up, go to the bathroom, come back, turn to fall asleep. When you pull this up, you have triggered your mind, your brain. Your brain will not go back to sleep because you've now awakened to this light that you just scream. You will not go back to sleep. And now you woke up at 4 o'clock, you got to go to work, and you sit here for 2 hours. And then 3 hours of the work, you tell me, man, I'm so tired. Yeah, you tired. Oh, man. Well, I ain't going to call social media a demon. Because if you call social media a demon, like call chicken a demon. Because anything you do in excess is problematic. Hold on. We got to find somebody else because Mary walking too cute. She trying to be all slow and you need to put some pep in your step when you're moving back here with that mic. Look at God. We still need you to move faster. Mary know I'm going to mess with her all the time. Ain't that something? Go ahead.
There we go. All right. So what I was saying about the light, right? Before I go to bed, I actually turn my light all the way down. That way, if I happen to look at it when I wake up in the middle of the night, it's not bright into my face. I think I read an article, like some social media thing, that said that the light itself is what keeps you up. So if you look at it before, like 2 hours before you go to bed, you won't be able to go to bed. So right before I turn the light all the way down.
Or you could turn it all the way off.
Yeah.
How about that one? See, you want to give you credit. I turned the light down. No, turn it off. See, that's the hard part. Because turn the light, you sitting there, then you sitting there kill your eye. That's it. We don't understand what this thing is doing. It's not just this thing, it's what they're doing to us, man. Well, the TV, but see, the TV has always, remember this, when TVs became mainstream, this was the critique of television. It's the boob tube. Remember, that's what it was called. It was the dumbing down of America, right? But the problem is, the TV is not an algorithm. See, you actually control the TV. The algorithm control you. Yeah, I'm just talking you just don't know. Listen, what's your favorite? You eat sweets? Mary, you eat sweets? What's your favorite sweets to eat?
So I love the walnut muffins.
Oh, like muffin. But I can't really call that sweets. I mean, it's
It's sweet. You're not talking about candy. I don't like candy.
yeah, but muffins. I can't talk to you. Give me who likes some sweets? Oreo duck. Now, Lord Jesus, I don't like it, but no people love some Oreo. Now the golden Oreos. I'm gonna tell you right there. That one day, me and my guy Pascal, we go on a trip every year after Easter. And so we rent a house. It's like 6 of us. And we golf, we hang out, all this stuff. So Pastor Johnson, they go to the supermarket and come back. And he got these 2 things of the golden. Or I was like, I was like, bro, I don't eat cookies like that. He's like, Walrond, I'm telling you, you try these, it's over. I was like, man, give me one of them cookies. That bag ain't make it through the night, Jack. I was like, what is this? And that's what I was like, no, keep this away from me. I was like, this ain't no, they putting something in here different because the way I couldn't just walk away from it, I went back, then grabbed 4, then went back. Like, but imagine it. The Oreo, or back in the days, Pop-Tarts. Pop-Tarts had like crack, man. He was like, Pop-Tarts, strawberry, frosted? Man, listen. You put them in the oven, or you eat them just dry, right them out the thing. But the point is that you take the sweet you love the most, and you put a big bowl next to you every night and every day, and try not to eat none. Go ahead. It's like me and the peanut chews. If I put a bowl of peanut chews next to me, and now but here's the thing. Nobody's putting the bowl there but me. It's there. But with the algorithms are designed to keep and maintain your attention with the things you like, whatever you like. So if it wasn't just fixing on things you like that they're studying you could put it down. But they watching your habits, the things you hold them eyes to. Then all of a sudden, watch it. Next time, get some random video and look at it. Just keep it on there for like 3 minutes. Everything after that will be videos connected to what you just watched. And you go like this, oh, I'm trying. And before you know it, a whole day passed. Hours done passed. Okay. It's deep. It is, but that's what happens. And for some of us, for old people of another generation, we still impacted by it, but we still have memories of other things. So we're still impacted by it, but there's still things like me to my books and newspapers and things of that. We still have memories of other things that for digital natives, they have no other memory other than their digital. Their whole life is shaped by that, which leads to decrease in critical thinking, analytical thinking, which leads to early addiction of young children, which leads to sleep deprivation, which leads to social awkwardness. I mean, when you think about those who are 12 and 13 and 14 now, when they're 30 years old, you see now in Gen Z this anxiety around social engagement. There's a lot of anxiety around making friends, dating. There's a lot of these things that are awkward now. Right? And you just walk around. We just walk around and just do this one day. When you walking around, going to work, going to eat, just don't hold your phone. Just look at people. And when you look at people, what you will see is that everybody, the amount of lives that have been lost doing this, crossing the street, not paying attention, all that stuff. Like it's deep, Z. Oh yes, I think she can handle them 3 pews.
Thank you, Pastor. But
Yes.
to your point about the phones, I work in higher education, and as I go in and out of some of the schools in Southern Westchester, they make them lock their phones
Yes.
all day. So some of the counselors express that during lunchtime, it's pretty amazing to see them interacting with each other.
Talking.
They said the social engagement has grown because they can't play their games. They're not using it for AI as much. But it is an issue when it comes to behavior, trying to contact their parents. But I was thinking, oh, that's good. They're not on social media. They're not distracted, so they can complete their applications and do their work. But once I learned that it was affecting them in a positive way with the social emotional learning and them just engaging with each
Yeah.
other, is so important.
It is, because it forces them to do what we have to do. Talk. And engage and learn that you don't always get your way, and learn how to compromise, and learn how to wait your turn, and learn all the things we learn to help develop us into adults that they are not having. Everything they get when they want. If I don't like what you got to say, I block you. Like Like you create these vacuums where the only people you engage are the people who think like you, which actually shrinks you as a human being. Because part of your expansion is when you encounter different people of different cultures and different points of view and different ways of seeing the world. But if you surround yourself with everybody who thinks like you, act like you, like the things you like, then you're not expanding as a human being. You might be expanding your circle, but your circle is limited. You're creating this space in a particular kind of vacuum, in a bubble that is not real. So then this is why you have this polarization. Because if I'm surrounded by a bunch of people who think like me, then I make an enemy out of those who don't think like me. That's how you get so much political and social polarization right now. Because social media creates these bubbles, we all think alike. Because if you watch one video that says black people are inferior, you're getting a bunch of them after that. And it's going to all reinforce. You're going to start thinking that the people you see is actually the broader world. But it's not. It's the parochial world constructed by your affinity for thinking that black people are not intelligent. And so the more you loop, the loop is giving you, and you start thinking more people think like that, when it ain't more people. So then you have been shaped, right, in this narrow, limited way of seeing the world. And it depletes you and it diminishes you as human beings. So what is happening now is we're having people who are, and Dr. Green can tell you for sure, people who are socially awkward, socially limited, right, intolerant to difference, right, don't know how to have a conversation, right, and will miss life like this. Yeah. Because I think about when I was young and my godfather, my godbrother, and it was my godfather's it was his grandfather, but he would say we were godbrothers, but he was 5 years younger than me at the time, and my godfather used to, like, I don't know what he's saying. You know what I'm saying? Nah, I mean. He was like, no, I don't know what you mean. One day I was over there. He said, I don't understand what he's talking about. Talking about grandpa, this, that, and the third. What's this, that, and the third? He was like, so it was the same thing, but the difference is our world was different. So what we saw, had access to, was different. And certain things applied across the board. Where now you would think with access to information, we would expand our knowledge base, but it's actually shrinking because of the design of the technology to get you addicted. And that's what's happening. And this would be an offense to someone like Du Bois. To think that you can't be in a college school classroom. I ain't talking about small, I'm talking about and you can't, as a professor, assign whole books because they ain't going to read it. See, they don't want me in the classroom no more. I used to get people complaining when I was teaching at NYT. Some of the students would complain. They be like, it's too much reading. It's too hard. Do not walk in my classroom. Look at the syllabus and be like, this is a lot of reading. You have just added 3 more books to it. You kidding me? This is a lot of reading. What? This ain't a lot of reading. What you in here? I was like, wait a minute. You are in here for a master's degree? And you thought it was too much reading? We don't give these out at, like, go to 7-Eleven and get one of them. They do give them out now. They do give them out. I had people in my classroom who could not write a paragraph. How did you make it to master's degree? Can't write a paragraph, and I'm not exaggerating. And I had to complain. I was like, let me tell you something. I was like, look at this. I was like, because then the thing is, you in my class, you can't write a paragraph. And Linnea tell you, when you in the system, I can go back and look at the classes that the student took. And I go back and say, see, A. How in the world you got 3 A's and you can't write a paragraph? Then they come to my class, C, D. I'm giving you what you earned and what you deserve. I'm not doing you a disservice by pushing you through. And yes, I will sit there and go through the painstaking work of reading a lot of that mess because I'm the teacher. But it's crazy and it's worse. Not me. I told one of my friends who were teaching college, he's like, these kids don't want to read. I said, man, you better than me. They don't want to see me in the class right now, especially undergrad. I'd be like, okay. I'd be like, do a paper, turn the papers, right? Turn the papers. They give me all their papers. I'm like, okay, here's what I want now. Put them laptops away. Here, come and get you some paper and this pen and write me a report based on what you just gave me. Right now. Go ahead, because if you did it, this shouldn't be hard. Nah, they have a fit. Don't give me those you can put in the AI. Give me a book report right. Or what I did one time, you had to talk to the class tonight and look in this screen. Do not put your head down looking at no notes. Look in this screen and tell me. Because I'm not pushing you through here so you get your degree. You ain't embarrassing that. Man, what? Man, look, I'm going to go back to Du Bois again. It's crazy, right? I'm going to skip down that central question, chapter 6, for each, because I put this at the end of each chapter. Here's the central question, chapter 6. Are we educating people merely to earn a living or to become fully human? That is the issue. I had a professor of mine who always told me, it's not about your grades. Did you learn something? Has your knowledge expanded because you were in this class? Because there's people who know how to do the busy work of getting the A. You ever see people like A, 4.0, but really ain't that smart? Yeah, you have. 4.0 GPA, and really ain't that smart. They've mastered how to do the work, but they haven't retained anything. They have not expanded their knowledge. And that happens all the time, right? Chapter 7 on the black belt. This, if you saw the documentary, was Du Bois's trips into the South. That for him, you understand why this is alarming if you read it. Du Bois ain't from the South. He's super bougie. From New England. I mean, how many you know, Great Barrington, right? Yeah. Even if you heard on the documentary, you heard his voice. His voice very, very, yeah, sounded New England sounded like he was British a little bit. Yeah. But you know, so when he goes into the South for school and then goes back to his kind of learning about the South, he's amazed. And he's more invigorated to focus on how we educate black folk. Because he's seeing something that's scary, horrifying to him. But again, the reality of black people navigating life in the South was different for him, having grown up, in the Northeast, and then going down south to Fisk. That was eye-opening. If you read that, it was eye-opening for him. Because that reality is a completely different reality than what he knew. As a black man, he had to learn some social codes in the South to survive. And the amazing thing is that he went down south and survived school down south. Because he's not used to, he doesn't understand the idea of walking down the street and don't look a white person in the face. He don't know what that is. He don't know what it is necessarily to make sure that you respect when a white person calls you boy, you sir, and man, he don't know that. So the fact that he survived going into Tennessee, right, from his sensibility coming to the South was amazing. Because that had to be eye-opening. I mean, we have horror stories of Emmett Till. You know, you coming from Chicago, which, you know, and going to Mississippi, and you don't understand the social mores of that place, and next thing you know, little boy is killed. The South was horrifying. So he had to understand it because he wanted to educate it. He knew where our people were. So you look at that. Du Bois takes readers in this passage on a journey through southwest Georgia. He calls this region the heart of the Black South. The landscape becomes a living classroom for understanding, in his mind, race in America. So you got to understand, Du Bois goes down south, whether it's Tennessee, whether it's Georgia, in that part, in that chapter, and he's actually stepping foot on former plantations and even talking to people who are former slaves, right? That's the part. To hear them give language to the experience of what it was to be a slave. You can't imagine what that might have done for him coming from Massachusetts and to talk to people who grew up in bondage, right? It changes you. It changed him. It changed him because not having had that, it would change. And you remember, when you get to the civil rights movement or you get to the turn of the century, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, there were people alive who were slaves. You don't realize that. Think about it. If you were 10 years old in 1865, think about that. If you were 12 years old in 1865, and you get in 1920, 1930, you're not 90 years old. So you had people who had a memory and images of seeing people beat and brutalized, right? And if that's in you, like today on the radio show, someone posted on the message board, you know, how we hate ourselves, we don't treat one another right. And my response was, first of all, and this is not an excuse, but you're talking about 11 generations being taught to hate themselves. 11 or 12 generations of people being taught to hate themselves and not to trust anyone. They can't trust people. And that goes across the board because you get to when you talk about racism and the racism encountered not just in America, but colonization happened everywhere, right? In different ways. So it is just an amazing thing how navigating this country as a person of color or as a foreigner with an accent, right? I mean, to this day. So Du Bois is encountering in the South a reality. So everywhere he sees, you see it, reminders of slavery, farm plantation, decaying estates, persistent poverty, right? Freedom has arrived, as he said in these things. People are free, but the fruits of bondage remain. The vestiges of slavery still intact. They're still present. You know, we could take a trip to Charleston and you go see stuff, but, you know, in Du Bois's time walking around, these things are still fresh. The plantations aren't renovated like we see now. You go, these still things look horror. These like horror shows for people who are seeing this stuff. Because you know the legacy these things are built on. I don't think I told you this story. What time is it? Okay, we good. We finished 7. My friend and I, Dr. Wallace, who's been here, right? That's one of my best friends. I got a crew of people, my ride or die friends, right? So he and I, every year, around this time, next week to be exact, we do a golf trip, right? He and I have been doing this for like, God knows how long. We do a trip. So one year, one of the members here, who used to be a member here, was a golf writer for Sports Illustrated. Because of that, he knew all the people knew him at the courses around the country. And so there was a resort that I wanted to go to because of its location. It was Sea Island Resort in Georgia. And it was a place you had to fly to like Jacksonville, Florida, and then drive to Sea Island, Georgia. It was off the coast. But the course was an amazing golf resort. They had just had a PGA tournament when we got there. It just finished that Sunday. We got there that Monday at this resort. We didn't pay for anything now. At that time, this particular resort, the rounds were like maybe $250, $300 rounds. We didn't pay nothing because of this hookup. So they just had this tournament to the point where they hadn't taken that. If you ever watch a golf tournament, there's stands at the holes, especially at 18th hole. The stands were still up at different holes. And so we're playing and seeing this course is still, pros just finished playing this course. So we're excited. So as we walk into the ninth, playing on the 9th hole. So at the end of the 9th hole, there's a big stand, a grandstand of people, chairs. You see everything is still up, 9th and 18th. As you sit in the 9th hole, walking, now mind you, on this place, this golf course, when you went to check in and get your golf cart and make your way to the first hole, there was a remnants of an old cotton mill. Just a cotton gin, if you know what that is. See the remnants of it. The chimney was there, the house right on the property. So we know now this property clearly was a plantation at one point. It's now a golf course, right? So on the ninth hole, we're walking, we're on the cart driving, and we're getting out to go hit our balls. And as we look to the left off the cart path, there were headstones in the trees, right? So as we walk, so I'm like, bruh, because I'm like, let's walk away and see what this is. Because I know what it is already in my mind. This is our folk. So there's a plaque on one of the trees before you got to the stone that said, these are the headstones of former slaves on this plantation and their family members. Because from you can see some headstones was like passed in 1950. So they were buried with their family who used to be slaves on this plantation, right? So we at this tree with a placard, you can see the stones. So now here we go. We want to be curious. I want to see what these headstones. I want to see how far back these headstones get. This is true. When he come back here, you ask him if this happened, because he was at the boat ride too. By the way, he had a good time too. And when we stepped past that plaque to look at the headstones, swarm of flies out of nowhere. And the deeper we walked in, the more intense they started attacking us. I said, Doc, this is wild. Now, mind you, I walked right back out. And when I passed that tree, no flies. I said, oh, this is deep. They were like, don't come across this ground. This was sacred. And then, when I'm telling you, I kid you not, as soon as we stepped across, it came out of nowhere. It was like, first was a few, and it was like, right there. I said, this is heavy, right? So here we were on a former plantation playing golf, and the remnants, because it was a headstone. It was headstone because then they were, you had this idea. When you saw a plantation where there were headstones with names and dates, they would say that those slave owners were benevolent because they didn't usually do that with slaves. So whenever you saw a plantation, when you saw headstones, that means a slave owner was, I don't know what benevolent mean when you own people, but maybe not as bad. Because you could see on the headstones from the ones we could see, like they're close by the tree, there was like a first name, and it had a birth date. Like it would be like 1830 or 1815 to 1859 or stuff like that. So these were slaves, and they had dates and headstones, right? So I was like, this is deep. So imagine now, this is me looking at this. Now imagine the boys talking to slaves. Right? That changes some things, right? And then his travels also understanding why we were, and you got to stand for him, people who were systematically kept away from learning. And now we got a chance and you choose not to. That was the offensive thing. That's what the boys would be horrified right now. You have the opportunity to learn, and we don't. You have the opportunity to read and don't care. We have the chance to vote and uninterested. Like this would be horrific to a lot of these folk, right? Across the board, all right? So what you find is, in this, I love this part, land of contradiction, because that's what America really is. The thing that was talked about on the radio show today, on Flag Day is June 14th, right? Okay, June 14th. What day is that? Sunday. It's his birthday. But you know what's happening at the White House? UFC, ain't no wrestling. They have a UFC on the White House lawn. UFC fighting on the White House lawn, right? Well, it's in court. Well, that's helpful. I mean, it's 50-50 at this point with the court. But just think, so people there, Reverend Sharp, oh, this is offensive. I'm not going to do that. People, I said, but you know what? Actually, it makes sense for this administration. Violence for entertainment is lock and step with this administration. Because not just physical, but legislative violence and policy violence, all for the sake of their amusement and entertainment. Yeah. Hold on, she'll get to you 5 minutes.
Thank you. When I saw it on TV, it brought back to Caligula days, Caesar days.
Yeah. Oh, that's what it is for gladiators. That's exactly what I said. Yes.
Yes, that's what I was like. Wow, this is. I'm really seeing this in real life.
In real life. The emperor, for the emperor's birthday, there was always a big gladiator contest. That's what this man think he is. Right? So you're right. It exactly throw back to that moment. It is a height of imperialism, violence for the emperor's sport. Huh? Well, he gonna sleep at. But the idea of this land of contradictions: land is fertile and rich, people are poor. Wealth exists in region, but none who create it rarely enjoy it. That was a legacy of black folk. You built the wealth of this country. See, we don't. You can't ever say that enough. You can't say that. The wealth, what put America as a superpower, was over 200 years of free labor. Period. Period, yes. All right, let me see what he's going to do with this. He gave me the, right here. No, that was a Denzel bop. He was giving you a Denzel. I don't know what you was doing.
I don't want you to address it now, but
Okay.
at some point I need you to address reparations because all of these people with the dumb ideas that we don't deserve it is stupid. But I would really like your take on it, but not tonight.
No, I could. That's fine. It's 8:35, but the problem with reparations is not just folk who say we don't deserve it. What will it be? Now, I have an idea of what reparations should be, but people who say reparations, what does that mean? So how do you determine? So you could say every descendant of a slave in this country, because we got to be clear, every black person in the country is not a descendant of a slave. So every black person ain't going, then you got to go proving that. Because every black person is not a descendant of a slave. That's real. Right? So you got that. Then what's the dollar amount? Then what now you want to know what my theory one of my theories of reparations should be? That if you prove that you're American black with descendant slave, no black person in this country should ever pay for a state college university. Ever. That's the reparation. That every person who's a descendant of a slave in this country should be able to go to any state college university for free. Period. To me, that makes sense. That's one way you can actually quantify it. You can see it, and it depends on the desire of a person to pursue that, but it should be free. Shouldn't cost anything. That's just one idea. But in terms of money, man, I ain't putting no money in nobody's hands. You see what stimulus checks did? Y'all forgot about these stimulus checks? Stimulus checks came and the malls took off. Man, I ain't putting no money in nobody's hands. But you create that kind of opportunity. But it's a hard conversation. If you want to do it, you should have a plan for it in 1863 or 65. Not now. How do you go back and do that? But I think it's one of those political conversations that come up every now and again and gets no traction because you can't really quantify it. And it's difficult. Like, what's the calculus? So I think, but for me at this point, I don't even need reparation. I just need systemic acknowledgement at this point in this season of why affirmative action and DEI was necessary. The assumption that you don't need these things because all of a sudden stuff ain't bad no more, racially. Like what? What? You got people in this country delusional. But again, people who, like a Trump, whose life is without consequences, who, like you said, it was a classic line, you born on third base and act like you hit a triple. So yeah, right. But I think it's important. I think that when you look at the Du Bois documentary, the reason why I loved it is it puts a historical context on the age in which he's moving, right? And it's not, and I don't think, and that, for me, the reason why I love documentaries, especially documentaries coming into the history of this country, is because why you have Du Bois doing his thing, you have the Andrew Carnegies amassing this incredible wealth while paying minimal wages, right? You have these robber barons who are bilking this country. You have child labor. You have whole families. The stay-at-home mom idea doesn't come because women are lazy. It's created at a time where everyone in the house, except maybe the mother, went to work. From the 6-year-old child to the 30-something-year-old father, they all in the factories working. There's no regulation against child labor. There's no regulation about work laws and hours you work. That's why the lifespan was so crazy. And then forget about if you in certain regions of the country where you were in the mines, you had children working in the mines, dying regularly. No regulation. So when you get these wealthy people now, these corporations who want to deregulate, it's a flashback to a time when you didn't have regulatory standards. And a desire, hatred by the wealthy towards persons who tried to institute regulations. That's why at the time, people like, for example, you want to see another good documentary? Watch the documentary on the Roosevelts. It came out in 2014, politically. The disdain they had when Theodore Roosevelt becomes president, and who wants to regulate these industries and regulate the rich people, and feels like in his teaching as a child from his father is that those who are wealthy have a responsibility to tend to the needs of those who are poor. That you don't look at your wealth as something to lord over people. You use it as a gateway to help as many people as you can. And that was part of the tradition of that family. So from Theodore Roosevelt to Franklin Delano Roosevelt, this way you get this regulation, then you get the New Deal, then you get all this stuff. I mean, imagine if you had somebody like a Trump being president during the Depression. Just think about that for a second. Think about during the Depression if you had someone who was completely, oblivious to the plight of people, people who really believe in the survival of the fittest, of the strongest. So if you poor, that's just on you. Just imagine what this country would have been like if you had, give me another one, if you had a Woodrow Wilson as president and not Franklin Roosevelt. You talking about Trump, you ain't seen racism unless you see who Woodrow Wilson was. Who, by the way, you know what he did, if you saw that documentary, before he was president of the United States. He was president of Princeton University. Right? So imagine the president of Princeton is one of the staunch racists you can imagine. You thought you were going to see some black people at Princeton at that time? Or any person of color? No. So this thing is deeply, that's why this 250th anniversary is, I got some special words reserved for that first Sunday in July. Because this 250 years of this country, and is steeped in gross hypocrisy. Still the language is a facade for some of the most brutal ideas. You can't bypass. You cannot bypass when for the majority of this country's, before it became a republic, slavery was still at play. Colonized by the British, but still owning slaves. So they fighting for freedom with slaves. It's crazy, right? If it wasn't real, you would think this was like a bad movie. You fighting for freedom while holding slaves, and you don't see the contradiction here. Well, you only see the contradiction if you saw them as human beings. Because you didn't see them as human beings, there's no contradiction. When you said all men are created equal, they meant that. They didn't even mean white women. Man, you got people now pushing this idea that women should have no vote, that the man should vote for the household. Now, who believe that. I always have to remind people in this country, when you think about, and we said a few weeks ago, or a month or so when we were together, remember, black men had the right to vote before white women. So if you want to know how white women were viewed at the time, they passed laws for black men to vote before they passed anything for white women, or women in general. So that tells you something. They rather see former slaves vote than women. That tells you something. All right? And this is where we are now. We had the 250th anniversary of the founding of this country, and look who in office. I better go read. When you leave here tonight, because I'm going to let you go to have enough time to do it. You go read Frederick Douglass's speech about the 4th of July. You want to read some good reading? Brilliant. You know, what is the 4th of July to a Negro, boy? To a slave. What is that to a slave? Can you imagine? Can you imagine in 1776? No, let's go. 1781. Right? The 5-year anniversary of the founding of the country on the 4th of July. Fireworks everywhere, celebration everywhere, and slaves doing the cooking, and tending to the fields. But they out there with fireworks, celebrating freedom, independence. You got to understand that. And that memory of that reality is not etched in our collective memory. But if it was etched in our collective memory, we would have a different aptitude and attitude towards some things. Because this is insane. So that's why I think Du Bois, that's why I tell you, keep these notes. That Du Bois is more important now probably than ever before. Because tragically, the problem of the 21st century is still the problem of the color line. And some of the things that Du Bois was fighting for and fighting against at the turn of the century is still the things he's fighting against and fight for at the turn of the 21st century and still beyond. This country is sick. It has a sickness. We don't, unless, and that language is not hyperbolic. It is not, that is real. This country has a sickness, and it is embedded and woven into the fabric of its identity. It is an illness that until we treat it as an illness, we'll never get close. It is a sickness, right? Just think of how sick, like I said on Sunday, think of how sick you have to be, and narcissistically so, to want a statue and honor yourself. You read that, you could have read that story about Nebuchadnezzar 10 years ago, and then you realize you're living in 2026 and it's happening. We talking 1,000 years ago. You talking right now. This is real. But I'm going to say it. I said it when this started, this whole era. Evil does not know when to stop. And it ends up turning on itself and destroying itself. Right? But it also means that we can't sleep, that we have to be vigilant. And, yeah. I could say a lot about this congressional district, but I'm not. Go ahead, Mary, go. No. It's right there. She coming to you.
I've been thinking a lot about like how not to be distracted by cultural issues, so we can focus on the real issues that affect our communities.
Yeah.
And thinking with education and the access and the lack of access to it, a lot of like what is happening here in District 5 in Harlem, especially you all see my little Ezra jumping around, experiencing the process of getting into a good school for him. Absolutely impossible in this district. Like there's no progressive education in Harlem. Basically, there's like one school with very little access, and they're very young, so they're not there yet. But that's my question. I keep going back to that, like how we can stop being distracted with that. Like thinking back in Texas, what is happening with Rico? I don't know if you've seen that, and how our communities are still divided because of the nomination that happened before he became the nominee for the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And how different communities are not united to the level they have to be in order to vote enough to get him into office.
Yeah.
So we just keep being pulled, even when the issues are so real and close to home.
You asked a question that is almost a question that can answer itself. How do we not get distracted when every moment of our existence we're being hit with distractions? That's why I started with that phone, right? Because we can look at what's culturally on television or politically, but everything is designed to take our attention away from the things that are critical, especially critical to our development as human beings, right? So, for example, if you think about what you just raised, the lack of progressive education in Harlem, well, who's having those conversations? We're not elected officials based on that, right? We talking about, oh, I know that name, or somebody's son running for some office. It's insane. We still are making, I don't blame any systemic, now we know there's systemic issues designed to keep people of color and poor people and minority people down. Yes, but we're also making poor choices within our communities. We're making choices that are not based on our betterment, right? We're making choices based on ideas or loyalties that are false loyalties that are not yielding any kind of fruit, and it's the same cycle of people who think that we're beholden to them because we've given them that kind of power. And it's tragic, and we end up suffering. We end up suffering because we've lost the capacity to sustain organized engagement with these issues, because our engagement lasts sometimes as long as the rage lasts or the spin cycle of the media lasts, and then we drop it and the things are still unresolved and you're still looking for a place for your son. We don't even understand the nature of the crisis in some of our schools and what it takes, right? In terms of inequitable access to educational resources. Where's that conversation when you talk about the election? If you think about here in the congressional election, we talking about whether we have a Democratic socialist going to run who nobody knows. Because I sure don't know the person, right? Or somebody who you don't really see in this community. Like it's so many things we miss. And this person running for state assembly, and this person running for, state senate, and we don't even know what they do. We ain't even been to their offices. And we give people passes. When you can run for city council in this district and you could win a city council seat with 10,000 votes, you know how crazy that is? Like, this is where we are. So on some levels, we got to be able to do two things. We got to be able to critique the larger systemic issues that maintain these systems, but then we got to critique the choices and bad patterns in our own communities and be honest about it. And I don't know when it became a betrayal to be able to be critical of our people. All of a sudden now, that's betrayal. Oh, we don't air dirty laundry. Apparently we do. All the time. Right? So it's so many things that it's not it's a cultural shift that has to take place. I mean, we're not even talking about what's happening to young people, as I said earlier, because of social media. We're not even talking about the kind of deprivation that leads to a devaluing of life. We were sitting in the office looking at New York One, in like a 3-minute period, 2 girls stabbed here in Brooklyn. Man shot on the bus here the other way. I mean, it's crazy. I said, this is insanity. So think about it, you got that happening, massive violence, unnecessary violence. You have poor education. It is an environment that will breed and beget itself over and over again. And we'll keep making the same poor choices. Like you're talking about Texas, Rico. Now people mad because Jasmine Crockett didn't get the election. So now black folk talking about we ain't voting. That's insane. That's insane. We're not going to vote for Rico because Jasmine didn't win. So we're going to let the Republican get it? Like this is this thinking, but it goes back to social media. It's zero-sum games. My person get it, my person get it, I don't care. But then you're going to complain when the other person get it and kicking your butt. Isn't we seeing it here with this president? All the folk who now feel, you now you got buyer's remorse. Really? Now? So you just thought he was gonna do all? Come on, man. It's how we maintain the division, and egos. Because I ain't heard Jasmine get up and say nothing. She ain't say nothing. So that means your ego is bruised and damaged, and we ain't got time for that. So nothing has been said, and I'll be honest with you, she's gone down a little bit in my book. Because she should be out there telling folks, no, I didn't get it. And there may be some things that me and Tellerick don't agree on, but you know what we do agree on? We don't want to see that person in office. And rallying the troops. But you sit around here mad, like just mad, and now it's personal. It's not about the people anymore. It happens all the time. It's personal. It's not about the people. And this even gets personal for me because I did run for office. And I saw what happened. I saw how it happened. Right? Where you had a situation, this I'll close on this, shows our thinking. I ran against Charlie Rango and Espaillat. And I ran in 2014. In 2012, Charlie Rango was censured by the Congress. In 2012, when he was sent, 2010 he was censured. Was 10? Because he ran again in 12, that's right. So after he was censured, he ran and won. So he's censured, which meant basically that he was stripped of all his power, reduced to a freshman congressman. And the difference between a freshman congressman and him was that a freshman congressman could get seniority. He could no longer get seniority. So basically, he was no longer effective for this community, could do nothing. Could do nothing but hold that seat. Could not yield any, his seniority didn't work anymore. He could not deliver anything to this community. He could not get anything from federally for this community. And yet, this false loyalty, they elected him back in when for 2 terms, there was nothing he could do for the community. Right? And so you start looking at, not at him, you start looking at the people, how uninformed we are, right? How uninformed we are. And it repeats itself. And I remember having a meeting with him, and I was like, it's probably why he ain't like me, because I ain't go home and tell him. And we were having a meeting. I was like, do you not care about this community? I said, the best chance we got to maintain something is if you step out and let me run against Ezra. He won't beat me. Ego, man. 2 things. Didn't know when to let it go. And the real secondary issue was I wasn't beholden to any of them. So I ain't got to play them games. And that's what they fearful of. That's why they keep the same people, rotating the same kind of people in position to maintain the same control, because you don't want the variables you can't control in. And who suffers? I'll give you this one example. The first debate that we had was at Abyssinian Baptist Church. And I remember there's a point in the debate where the congressman said, I think we ought to put a moratorium on these luxury developments in Harlem. And people say, oh, yeah. So I just sat there. And the guy, Maurice Dubois, he said, Pastor, would you respond to that? I said, yeah, if y'all remember this, who were there. I said, I'm confused. I said, Congressman, these luxury developments couldn't happen if you didn't give it the green light. So how is it? I said, that's the game. They wouldn't be here if you weren't on board with them, but now in front of people, you playing this whole, we want a moratorium. Come on, stop. Stop. But that's the kind of stuff that they do all the time. Because when you're in office that long, you're no longer representing your people. You're not there for your consent. You're there for yourself. And part of why people kept voting for him all them years is because of the promise. He was on a Ways and Means Committee. And the idea was that what? That one day he'll be chair of the Ways and Means. Ways and Means, the most powerful committee in Congress, because this is the committee that sets tax law in this country. To be chair, he was going to be the first black person to be the chair of Ways and Means. Powerful, most powerful committee in Congress. and he gets it, he becomes a chair away from me and loses it. Because you had a committee that sets tax code and you ain't paying taxes on property. Like, so you get it and can't hold it. Like, what was the point? And also it was really using congressional letterhead to solicit funds for his center at City College. Like, it was just, and you would go to these, I'll go to these meetings, and people had no idea this stuff. Why are you trying to hurt Charlie? What? I said, he hurting y'all. What are y'all talking about? And I remember sitting around like, yo, this is crazy. So it was my first experience. Like, it was eye-opening to see why many of our communities look the way they do. Because they ain't just Harlem, it's across the country. You got a lot of black communities, political black enclaves across the country. You see the same thing? People who, look, I love James Clyburn. He should not still be running office. I think he was great. But you shouldn't be in office 40 and 40-something years. Like, it's no longer about the people, it's about you. And that's why a lot of these elected officials fight to keep these off, because one is the power, but two is the money. They can't walk away. You know, lobbyists, they come up there, you sitting there, I ran on the fact we're going to help unionize some of these places, and these companies come up and they start pulling out that money and putting it in your campaign war for, and you be like, I'll be quiet on that vote. It happens all the time. So we like looking up here at the president and seeing all that corruption, but corruption takes place among Congress and Senate, right? The kind that we don't want to talk about, you know. You stand and you say, and God forbid you say something that's against Israel now. Politically, you're trying to kill yourself. So you're going to say, we believe in the two-party state in Palestine, and that we think what is being done to the Palestinians is wrong, and we stand in support of fairness, but then you're taking all this money from PAC support Israel. Like, we go on and on with that. Hypocrisy, man. This system is jacked up. And tragically, you know how you change it? You know how you turn it around? Guess how? The people. The only way. Right? Let me see something. Let me get this. This is my plug. We got to. Right? I ain't trying to leave. I'm listening. Right. Right. Here's a line. I'm gonna give you this one. This is a line most folks don't remember. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with one another. That's the beginning that's in the Constitution. I want you to point out that's important. The only way you disband the politics of the country is people. It's the only way. People have that power to change this. People have the power to disrupt it. People have the power to end it. But people are here. And this was done intentionally. People out shopping, we Amazon, we TikTok shop, we strolling, streaming all night, we scrolling, we doing all that stuff. It was intentionally designed that way. So we'll never be interested in change this upside down because we caught on this petty stuff. The people have the power to change it, can't change it because we distracted our foolishness. And we allow our narrowness and our pettiness to stop us from even coming together. And we got to the point now where we believe there's no allies. I'm here, you there, you're there. We don't come together. You and your people over here, me and my people over here, y'all people over here, and we don't come together. We don't understand that is part of the strategy too, right? And we internalize it. That's why I show it. I'm probably going to show it again this year. Every year I try to show Requiem for the American Dream by Noam Chomsky. One of the greatest outlines of what this thing is about. But keeping tension between the masses is intentional. So we never come together. So if the people who being hit hardest in this country, if black folk, Latino folk, and Asian folk, and you call Native American, we all decide, you know, we tired of this. But nah, we let the division take center stage. And all of a sudden now, if you work with me, you betraying your folk. If I work with you, I'm betraying my folk. That's insanity. It's insanity. You're feeding into the same polarization and division and racism and negativity that keeps us at odds. Right? And now, if people chasing attention and chasing views, now as a preacher, all you got to do is talk about Trump every Sunday. Just talk about Trump every Sunday, you're going to get the views, you're going to get the polls. I'm not doing that primarily, not because I'm not interested, but Jesus ain't talking about Caesar every week. You can't, that is, if you are looking to empower people, and we've established what empire looks like. Because the same folk who just want to sit around every week critiquing Donald Trump, my question is, and what are you doing in the community you serve? And I ain't talking about just the money you flinging at folk. What are you doing in the community? How have you embedded yourself in the community in a way that shows and demonstrates you're committed to the empowerment and transformation of the people in your community? Don't just talk me to death from a pulpit, but just nothing that manifests itself in your plans, in your work, that's connected to what you say. But I'm not going to sit up there and spend Sunday after Sunday talking about somebody who we clear about who they are. Right? My folks still out here suffering. We ain't speaking truth to the powers that really impact on a local level. We're not engaging folk. So there's a period when I ran for office, after I ran for office, I said, no. I don't want to get caught up in this. And I retreated from a lot of political stuff and then dove deeper into the work we do here. It's got a greater impact and potential for impact. You don't know how, and I'll say this, we can get ready. You don't know how many days and nights, this is me just saying this, this stuff is, I can't let these things go in my mind. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. So, all right, y'all. Y'all come prepared. It can get discouraging. But in the true, Nate, we can stand of being a follower of Jesus, this is the moment where you can't surrender hope. And as fruitless as it can seem at times, right? Because, man, sometimes just like, my God, Lord. Because the easiest thing to do, you know what the easiest thing to do in this culture, and this is what it's designed to do, to make you say, man, forget all this. I'm going to take care of me and my family. That's what it's designed to do. It gets so big and daunting, like, no, let me just make sure my children are good and my family is good. Let me make sure I got a roof over my head. And you retreat into this individualism that is part of the American narrative too. So it's hard. And it's one of those things where because of the nature of it, and now because of the politics around it, I'm saying literally in the lab trying to figure this one out. I'm still trying to think through this. Because the one place we had recourse, I'm talking about poor people in this country, people of color in this country, the one place we had recourse was the courts. That's gone now. So now I'm just like, okay. And, you can't walk around here talking about, we're going to have a revolution. We ain't talking about no revolution of the mouth neither. That's how you feel sometimes. It makes you think that some people ain't going to really listen to you. They're scared of you. It can make you do those things. And this is why in this era you see so many people being radicalized too. Because when you feel hopeless and there's nothing you can do, and if that little piece keeps getting nurtured, it turns them, well, I'm going to kill somebody. I'm going to kill some folk. That's what you're seeing happening. You know, if you get radicalized, they don't care about life anymore. Let me just kill somebody. That's what's happening more now. More politically motivated violence than we've seen in generations. You know, more people committing violence because of political reasons, more so now than we've seen in generations. This is a scary time. But then you know what's going to happen? 2028 come. We're going to get a Democratic candidate, and we're going to sit around tomorrow. I don't know if he qualified. I don't know if she got, I don't know. You know, black folks just can't be giving our votes away. I was on CNN a couple weeks ago about the Texas race. Well, you know, the Democrat Party needs to do more. Tellerico needs to do more because black folk can't just give their votes away. The party hasn't done anything, and we need to withhold our votes. And do what when you withhold it? And what's going to happen when you do that? What's going to happen? Like, this is foolishness. And there are people who got tons of people listening to them through social media talking this craziness. He, my friend Eddie Gard, you know, he up in arms and he got his stuff out. But he was the same one back in 2016 was talking about black folks shouldn't vote for the president, just vote down ballot. You know how ignorant that was? And now you mad? I ain't got time for these jokes. I'm over it. I'm over this. This age makes my stomach hurt. The amount of con artists you see and the foolishness you hear being spewed through social media and the people who not, because if you ain't smart, you can't discern what's real and what's not. And I ain't talking about smart, I'm just saying you hear stuff that you notice, if you don't have an understanding of history and stuff, you can't discern what's real or not. Because if you don't read and don't know, how you going to discern? If it sounds good, I guess it's true. That's what it is now. So you don't even have the capacity. You know, that's wrong. I watched this video somebody sent me this video on TikTok. And this sister's up there, she's saying, watch this. You know what? We got to pay attention. Why do they all, listen to the statement now. And the amount of people who liked it was crazy. It was like tens of thousands. Here's what she said. You know, everybody ever noticed that they only put fast food restaurants in black neighborhoods? Now you got the secret insight. Now you know the truth. They only put, and the amount of people, that's right. And I'm like, this is ignorant. McDonald's didn't start in the hood. And it don't just exist in the hood. Wendy's ain't just in the black community. What? Now Kennedy Chicken may be the only one in the black man. but what? And people just eating this stuff. I'm like, do y'all know that this ain't true? But man, now if you can say anything, people, okay, let's get out of here. God, we just thank you and we love you tonight, oh God. God, the truth is, oh God, there are moments where it can feel pretty depressing in this country. And there's also these moments, oh God, where we can feel really hopeless. So many issues abound, and so many people are being damaged, and so many people are hurting, and so many people are wounded. And God, there are days when we want to just throw up our hands and surrender. But the truth is, oh God, those of us who love you, who follow the teachings of your Son, we can never surrender to despair. We can never surrender to hopelessness. Because, oh God, we are driven by people who also face worse times and refuse to let go. And we're encouraged because they had courage. If they had courage in those times, my God, we have to have courage in this time. Because at the end of the day, those words still ring true. Only when it's dark do we see stars. And God is just getting darker and darker by the day. That means the stars are about to shine. We trust that. We believe that, oh God. Continue to have your way in our lives. And we will continue to honor you with the best that we have. It's in your name we pray. Amen. All right, y'all. Have a good night. Well, and if anybody needs the